What happens when a small-town barista from Nashville stumbles into the arms of a mysterious millionaire with a hidden past? From the glittering streets of Miami to the snowy peaks of Aspen, Emma Carter's fairy tale romance is anything but ordinary. But as secrets unravel and betrayals surface, one question lingers. Is she falling for the love of her life, or walking into a trap that could shatter her dreams? Get ready for a journey of love, luxury, and shocking revelations that will keep you guessing until the very end. Don't miss a single moment of this captivating saga. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to follow Emma and James's story as it unfolds across America's most glamorous cities. Join our community of dreamers and romantics, and let's discover together if true love can conquer all. Subscribe now and be part of the story. In the vibrant heart of East Nashville, Tennessee, where cobblestone streets and weathered wooden houses blend with the lively pulse of bars and coffee shops, Emma Carter, a 25-year-old barista, begins her day as she always does. She stands behind the counter at the Daily Grind, a quaint coffee shop tucked away on Gallatin Avenue, where the aroma of freshly roasted coffee mingles with the soft strum of country music from the speakers. With her brown hair tied back in a high ponytail and a worn green apron draped over her jeans, Emma moves with practiced efficiency, serving a steady stream of regulars, street musicians, office workers, and the occasional tourist. Her life is simple, almost monotonous, but beneath her calm exterior burns a quiet ambition to escape the constraints of financial struggle and carve out a brighter future. Emma grew up on the outskirts of Nashville in a modest working-class family. Her mother, Linda, a seamstress, raised her alone after her father left when Emma was a child. Those lean years taught Emma to value every penny, but they also fueled her longing for a life free from the constant worry of utility bills and rent. Her tiny rented apartment in the Five Points neighborhood barely accommodates a single bed, a rickety wooden table, and a few paintings she created herself to soften the starkness of her surroundings. Each night, Emma sits by her window, gazing at the city's twinkling lights and wondering, will my life ever be more than this? On this particular morning, the Daily Grind is busier than usual. A group of tourists from California floods in, ordering complex lattes with almond milk and sugar-free syrup. Emma smiles through her fatigue, expertly crafting each drink. As she froths milk for a cappuccino, the bell above the door chimes, and a man steps inside. He's tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored gray suit, with neatly combed black hair and piercing blue eyes that scan the room with quiet confidence. Emma pauses, momentarily struck by his presence. He looks like he belongs on a movie screen, not in the rustic charm of her coffee shop. The man, later revealed to be James Harrington, approaches the counter. An espresso, no sugar, he says in a deep, measured voice with a faint New York accent. Emma nods, trying not to linger on his chiseled features. She senses immediately that he's not local. Nashville often attracts outsiders, businessmen, investors, or aspiring country stars, but few carry the magnetic aura of this stranger. As she hands him the espresso, their fingers brush briefly, sending an unexpected jolt through her. James offers a smile, polite yet enigmatic. "Have you worked here long?" he asks, leaning slightly against the counter, as if in no rush to leave. Emma, unaccustomed to prolonged customer conversations, feels a flush of self-consciousness. 3 years, she replies, wiping the counter to mask her unease. "You're not from around here, are you?" James chuckles softly. "Is it that obvious? I'm from New York, just here for a few days on business." He doesn't elaborate, but his gaze lingers on her, sparking a mix of curiosity and caution in Emma's mind. Their exchange stretches for a few minutes, touching on Nashville's charm, country music, and Emma's secret trick of dusting cinnamon into her coffee blends for extra flavor. When James leaves, slipping a $20 bill into the tip jar for a $3 coffee, Emma stares in disbelief. "Who tips like that?" she mutters, though a strange warmth stirs within her. The next day, James returns. He orders a flat white and settles at a corner table, working on his laptop. Emma notices him glancing her way whenever she laughs with a customer. By the third day, he lingers longer, engaging her in conversation. "Have you ever been to Husk?" he asks, referencing one of Nashville's most upscale restaurants on Rutledge Hill. Emma shakes her head, smiling sheepishly. "That place isn't for people like me. Too expensive. James raises an eyebrow, as if her words have piqued his interest. Then let me treat you. Tonight, 7 p.m., I'll reserve a table. Stunned, Emma assumes he's joking, but his steady gaze suggests otherwise. She stammers a refusal, citing her lack of appropriate attire for such a venue. James merely smiles. Leave that to me. Consider it a thank you for the best coffee I've ever had. The rest of the day feels surreal. Emma calls her best friend, Mia, recounting the encounter with a mix of excitement and skepticism. What if he's up to something? She asks. Mia, ever the optimist, laughs. Up to something? Maybe he's just into you. Go for it. You might hit the jackpot. Though unconvinced, Emma lets herself be swept up in the moment. At 5 p.m., a large box arrives at the coffee shop, containing an emerald green silk dress from a designer Emma has never heard of, paired with sleek high heels and a note. See you at 7, James. Standing before her bedroom mirror, Emma barely recognizes herself. The dress hugs her figure, accentuating curves she usually hides under loose t-shirts. She applies a touch of pink lipstick, pins her hair into a low bun, and whispers, "It's just dinner." No big deal. But when a sleek black limousine pulls up outside her apartment and James steps out in a tailored tuxedo, she knows this is no ordinary evening. Husk is a world apart from Emma's reality. Its dark wood interiors, warm golden lighting, and menu featuring Maine lobster and Wagyu beef leave her awestruck. James navigates the setting with ease, ordering a bottle of vintage Bordeaux and sharing stories of his travels, from London to Dubai. Yet what surprises Emma most is his genuine interest in her. When she shyly mentions her dream of becoming a painter and the canvases she's never dared to exhibit, James doesn't dismiss her. "You have talent," he says, his eyes locked on hers. "I'd love to see your work someday." The dinner stretches over 3 hours, though to Emma, it feels like mere moments. James reveals he's in Nashville to negotiate a multi-million-dollar real estate deal in the Gulch District. He speaks matter-of-factly, not boasting, but Emma realizes he inhabits a world she's only glimpsed in magazines. As the evening ends, James escorts her back to the limousine. Outside her apartment, he takes her hand gently. "I'm in town a few more days," he says. "Can I see you again?" Emma nods, her heart racing. She steps inside, still wearing the silk dress, and collapses onto her bed, her mind spinning. Who is James Harrington? Is he truly interested in her, or is she just a fleeting amusement for a man of his stature? And if his intentions are genuine, does she have the courage to step into his world? The story is only beginning. Emma Carter stood in her cramped Five Points apartment in Nashville, staring at the sleek invitation in her trembling hands. The embossed card, delivered just hours ago, bore James Harrington's elegant handwriting. "Join me in Miami this weekend for a charity gala at the Fontainebleau. I'll handle everything. James." Her heart raced with a mix of excitement and disbelief. Less than a week ago, she was just a barista at the Daily Grind, pouring coffee for locals and dreaming of a life beyond her modest means. Now, a wealthy New York businessman was inviting her to one of Miami's most iconic hotels. Was this the opportunity she'd always longed for, or was she stepping into something too good to be true? Emma called her best friend Mia, who squealed through the phone. "Miami? With a guy like that? Emma, you're living a fairy tale. Pack your bags." Though Mia's enthusiasm was infectious, Emma couldn't shake a nagging doubt. She barely knew James, yet his charm and generosity during their dinner at Husk had left an indelible mark. When a courier arrived later that day with a first-class plane ticket to Miami and a note promising a wardrobe for the gala, Emma decided to take the leap. One weekend, she told herself, zipping up her worn suitcase, what's the worst that could happen? The flight to Miami International Airport was Emma's first taste of luxury. Seated in a plush, first-class cabin, she sipped complimentary champagne and tried to ignore the stares from other passengers, who seemed to sense she didn't belong. Upon landing, a chauffeur in a black SUV whisked her to the Fontainebleau Miami Beach, a sprawling oceanfront hotel that gleamed under the Florida sun. Emma's breath caught as she stepped into the lobby, its soaring ceilings adorned with chandeliers and marble floors reflecting the opulence of a world she'd only seen in movies. James greeted her at the hotel's iconic staircase to nowhere, his tailored navy suit accentuating his tall frame and piercing blue eyes. "You made it," he said, his smile warm yet tinged with a confidence that made Emma's knees weak. He escorted her to a suite overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, where a rack of designer dresses awaited, each one more stunning than the last. "Choose whatever you like," James said, gesturing to the collection. "The gala is tomorrow night, but tonight, I thought we'd take a little cruise." Emma, still processing the surreal turn her life had taken, could only nod. That evening, James took her to Biscayne Bay, where a private yacht awaited. Dressed in a flowing white dress James had selected, Emma stepped aboard, the warm Miami breeze tussling her hair. As the yacht glided past the glittering skyline, James poured her a glass of Prosecco and shared stories of his business ventures. Real estate deals in New York, tech investments in Silicon Valley, and now a new project in Miami's booming downtown. His world was intoxicating, and Emma found herself hanging on his every word. When he took her hand and pointed out the distant lights of South Beach, she felt a spark that was both thrilling and terrifying. Yet, amidst the romance, a shadow emerged. At the yacht's helm was Claire, James's personal assistant, a sharp-featured woman in her 30s with a polished demeanor and an icy stare. Claire had greeted Emma curtly at the hotel, and now, as she navigated the yacht, her glances carried a subtle hostility. During a quiet moment, while James was on a call, Claire approached Emma at the railing. "You're enjoying all this, aren't you?" she said, her tone clipped. "Just be careful. James has a way of making people feel special until they're not." Before Emma could respond, James returned, and Claire retreated to her duties, leaving Emma unsettled. The next day, Emma prepared for the charity gala, a fundraiser for a local children's hospital held in the Fontainebleau's grand ballroom. A stylist arrived at her suite, transforming her with soft curls, smoky eyeliner, and a floor-length sapphire gown that clung to her figure. When Emma descended the staircase to meet James, his eyes widened. "You look breathtaking," he said, offering his arm. The gala was a whirlwind of glamour. Celebrities, politicians, and business moguls mingled under crystal chandeliers, their laughter mingling with the clink of champagne flutes. James introduced Emma to his associates, presenting her with a quiet pride that made her heart flutter. For the first time, she felt like she belonged in this dazzling world. As they danced to a live jazz band, James pulled her close, his hand resting gently on her waist. "I'm glad you're here, Emma," he whispered. "You're different from everyone else in this room." Her cheeks flushed, but before she could reply, Claire appeared, interrupting with a message about an urgent call. James excused himself, leaving Emma alone near the bar. Claire lingered, her expression unreadable. "You're not the first, you know," she said softly, her words cutting like a blade. "James has a history. Ask him about Vanessa." The name hung in the air, a cryptic warning that sent a chill down Emma's spine. Later, as James rejoined her, Emma hesitated to confront him. The gala continued, and he remained attentive, guiding her through conversations with Miami's elite and sharing quiet moments on the ballroom's terrace. Yet, Claire's words gnawed at her. Who was Vanessa, and what did she mean to James? When the night ended, James escorted Emma to her suite, pausing at the door. "Tomorrow, I'd love to show you more of Miami," he said, his gaze earnest. "Will you stay another day?" Torn between her growing feelings and the seed of doubt Claire had planted, Emma nodded, her mind racing. Back in her suite, Emma stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the ocean waves crash under the moonlight. The luxury surrounding her, the plush bedding, the designer gown draped over a chair, felt like a dream, but Claire's warning echoed in her thoughts. She pulled out her phone and texted Mia. "This is incredible, but something feels off. Someone mentioned a Vanessa. Should I ask him?" Mia's reply came quickly. "Girl, you're in Miami with a millionaire. Don't overthink it. Just see where it goes." But Emma wasn't so sure. She had felt a connection with James, a warmth that seemed genuine. But what if Claire was right? What if she was just another fleeting chapter in his life? As she slipped into bed, the weight of the weekend settled over her. James's world was dazzling, but it came with complexities she hadn't anticipated. Was she falling for a man who could change her life, or was she walking into a trap disguised as a fairy tale? The answers, she knew, lay ahead, perhaps in the glittering streets of Miami or beyond, where James's past might unravel. Emma Carter, stood on the balcony of a sprawling Beverly Hills mansion, the Los Angeles skyline glittering below like a sea of stars. The warm California breeze carried the scent of jasmine, but her mind was far from the beauty surrounding her. Just 2 weeks ago, she was pouring coffee in Nashville, her life confined to a tiny apartment and endless shifts at the daily grind. Now she was the guest of James Harrington, a New York businessman whose wealth and charm had swept her into a world of private jets, designer gowns, and high society galas. Yet after the whirlwind weekend in Miami, a seed of doubt had taken root, planted by Claire, James's enigmatic assistant, and her cryptic mention of a woman named Vanessa. Emma had returned to Nashville briefly, intending to resume her normal life. But James's persistent calls and a surprise delivery of a plane ticket to Los Angeles changed her plans. "I want you to see my world," he'd said over the phone, his voice warm and convincing. Against her better judgment, Emma boarded the flight, landing at LAX, where a sleek Rolls-Royce awaited to transport her to James's mansion. The house, perched on a hill off Mulholland Drive, was a modern masterpiece. Glass walls, infinity pools, and a private art gallery that left Emma speechless. "This is home when I'm on the West Coast," James had said casually, as if owning such a property were commonplace. The first few days in Los Angeles felt like a dream. James was attentive, taking Emma to dine at Spago in Beverly Hills and stroll through the Getty Center, where he spoke knowledgeably about the artwork, his hand resting lightly on hers. He gifted her a delicate gold bracelet from Rodeo Drive, insisting it was just a small token. Emma, unused to such extravagance, felt both exhilarated and overwhelmed. She was falling for James, his confidence, his unexpected vulnerability when he spoke of his ambitions, but Claire's warning lingered. Who was Vanessa, and why had Claire implied James's affection was fleeting? The tension came to a head on the third night, when James invited Emma to a high-profile party at the Chateau Marmont, the legendary Hollywood hotel on Sunset Boulevard. Dressed in a sleek black gown that hugged her figure, Emma entered the event on James's arm, her heart pounding as they mingled with actors, producers, and tech moguls. The Chateau's Gothic charm, with its dim lighting and plush velvet decor, felt like a stage for secrets. James introduced her as someone special, his hand lingering on her waist, and for a moment, Emma let herself believe she could belong in this world. But as the night wore on, cracks began to appear. While James was pulled away to discuss business with a group of investors, Emma stood near the bar, sipping a martini and feeling out of place. Claire, ever present, approached with a cool smile. "Enjoying the spotlight?" she asked, her tone laced with condescension. Before Emma could respond, Claire leaned closer. "You should know James was engaged once. Vanessa was her name. It didn't end well. Ask him why." Emma's stomach churned, but Claire slipped away into the crowd, leaving her words to fester. Moments later, Emma overheard a heated exchange near the terrace. Hidden behind a curtain, she saw James arguing with a man in a tailored suit, his face flushed with anger. "You can't keep dodging this, Harrington," the man hissed. "The deal was clear, and I'm not covering for you again." James's voice was low, controlled, but sharp. "Keep your voice down. This isn't the place." The man stormed off, and James adjusted his jacket, his expression unreadable as he returned to the party. Emma's heart raced. What deal? And why did it feel like James was hiding something? Determined to uncover the truth, Emma waited until they were back at the mansion, seated in the sleek living room overlooking the city. The weight of the evening pressed on her, and she could no longer ignore her doubts. "James," she began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "Who's Vanessa?" His face tightened, just for a moment, before he offered a practiced smile. "Claire's been talking, hasn't she?" he said, leaning back in his chair. "Vanessa was someone I knew years ago. It was a mistake, and it's long over. You don't need to worry about her." His answer was too smooth, too vague. Emma pressed further. "And what about the argument I overheard? Something about a deal?" James's eyes narrowed, but he didn't falter. "Business is complicated, Emma. Sometimes negotiations get heated. It's nothing you need to concern yourself with." His tone was gentle, but it carried a finality that stung. For the first time, Emma felt like an outsider in his world, not a partner. She nodded, retreating to her guest suite, but sleep eluded her. Claire's warnings, the stranger's accusations, and James's evasiveness swirled in her mind. The next morning, James was all charm again, suggesting a drive to Malibu for lunch at Nobu. Emma agreed, hoping the ocean air would clear her thoughts, but her unease persisted. At the restaurant perched above the Pacific, James seemed distracted, checking his phone repeatedly. When Emma excused herself to the restroom, she passed Claire in the hallway, who was speaking in hushed tones on her own phone. "He's slipping," Claire said to someone unknown. "If she keeps digging, it'll all come out." Emma froze, her pulse quickening, but Claire ended the call and walked away, unaware of her presence. Back at the table, Emma studied James. His smile was as captivating as ever, but now she noticed the shadows beneath it. The guarded glances, the careful choice of words. She wanted to believe in the man who'd swept her off her feet, who'd looked at her like she was the only person in the room. But the pieces weren't adding up. Was James hiding a broken engagement, a shady business deal, or something worse? And what was Claire's role in all this? Was she a jealous rival, a loyal protector, or something else entirely? That night, alone in her suite, Emma called Mia, her voice trembling as she recounted the events. "I don't know what to do," she admitted. "He's everything I've ever dreamed of, but I can't shake the feeling he's not telling me the truth." Mia, ever pragmatic, urged caution. "You're in deep, Em. If you're gonna keep going with this guy, you need answers. Don't let the fancy houses and private jets blind you." Emma hung up, staring at the city lights through her window. Los Angeles, with its glamour and secrets, was testing her in ways she hadn't expected. As she prepared for bed, a knock came at her door. It was James, his expression softer than she'd seen all day. "I sensed you were upset earlier," he said, stepping inside. "If I've made you feel uneasy, I'm sorry. This world, it's not always easy to navigate, but I want you here, Emma, with me." His sincerity tugged at her heart, but her resolve held firm. "I need to know who you are, James," she said quietly. "All of you." He nodded, as if weighing her words. "Give me time," he replied. "I'll show you." The conversation left Emma torn. Part of her wanted to trust him, to lose herself in the romance that had transformed her life. But another part, sharper and more insistent, demanded the truth. As she drifted to sleep, one thing was clear. Her journey with James was far from over, and the answers she sought might come at a cost. Emma Carter stood in the penthouse atop a sleek Manhattan skyscraper, the sprawling expanse of Central Park shimmering below under the New York City twilight. The glass-walled apartment, with its minimalist decor and modern art collection, was a testament to James Harrington's wealth and influence. Just a month ago, Emma was a barista in Nashville, her life defined by routine and modest dreams. Now she was living in a world of private jets, designer wardrobes, and high-stakes intrigue, all because of James, a man whose charm had captivated her, but whose secrets were beginning to cast a shadow over their budding romance. After the unsettling events in Los Angeles, Emma had hesitated to join James in New York. The cryptic warnings from Claire, his sharp-tongued assistant, about a past fiancée named Vanessa, combined with the overheard argument about a mysterious deal, had left her questioning everything. Yet James's late-night plea in Los Angeles, his promise to reveal more of himself, had swayed her. "I need you to trust me," he'd said, his blue eyes earnest. Against her better judgment, Emma boarded a private jet to JFK, arriving in Manhattan to find James waiting in a chauffeured Bentley. "Welcome to my city," he'd said, kissing her hand, and for a moment, the doubts faded. The first few days in New York were a whirlwind of glamour. James took Emma to dine at Le Bernardin, where the Michelin-starred seafood left her speechless, and to a Broadway show at the Majestic Theater, where they watched The Phantom of the Opera from a private box. He introduced her to his inner circle, hedge fund managers, art collectors, and philanthropists, at a rooftop cocktail party at the Standard, High Line. Emma, dressed in a crimson gown James had gifted her, felt like she was living in a dream, yet the weight of unanswered questions lingered. Claire's presence, always hovering on the edges of their outings, was a constant reminder of the secrets James seemed reluctant to share. The turning point came on the fourth night, when James was called away for a late meeting, leaving Emma alone in the penthouse. Restless, she wandered into his home office, a sleek space with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a mahogany desk. As she idly traced her fingers along the shelves, a small box caught her eye, tucked behind a stack of files. Curiosity overcame her caution, and she opened it to find a faded letter, its edges yellowed with age. The handwriting was elegant, feminine, and the words sent a chill through her. James, you promised me forever, but your ambition ruined us. I hope you never forget what you did. Vanessa. Emma's heart pounded. The letter confirmed Claire's insinuations, but its tone hinted at something deeper, a betrayal perhaps, or a scandal. Before she could process it, the office door opened, and James stood there, his expression shifting from surprise to unease. "What are you doing?" he asked, his voice calm but edged with tension. Emma held up the letter, her hands trembling. "Who is Vanessa, James? And what did you do to her?" For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. Then James sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I knew this would come up eventually," he said, gesturing for her to sit. "Vanessa was my fiancée 5 years ago. We were young and I was reckless. I got involved in a financial deal that went south, a real estate project in Chicago. It wasn't entirely legal, and when it collapsed, I lost everything. Vanessa couldn't handle the fallout. She left me, and I don't blame her." His voice was steady, but his eyes avoided hers. "I've spent years rebuilding, making amends. That's all behind me now." Emma listened, her mind racing. His confession explained some of the whispers she'd heard, but it felt incomplete. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. "And what about the argument I overheard in Los Angeles? Is there more you're hiding?" James's jaw tightened. "The deal in LA was just business, Emma. You're reading too much into it. As for Vanessa, I didn't want to scare you away. I'm not that man anymore." He reached for her hand, but she pulled back, her trust shaken. "I need time to think," she said, retreating to her guest suite, the letter's words echoing in her mind. The next day, Claire's presence added fuel to Emma's doubts. At a charity luncheon in the Rainbow Room at Rockefeller Center, where James was a keynote speaker, Claire cornered Emma near the dessert table. "Did you ask him about Vanessa?" she said, her voice low and sharp. "Or did he feed you some polished story?" Emma bristled. "Why are you doing this? What do you want?" Claire's smile was cold. "I'm trying to save you the heartbreak I've seen others go through. James is a master at rewriting his past. Dig deeper, Emma. You'll thank me later." Before Emma could press her, Claire walked away, leaving her with a sinking feeling. That evening, Emma decided to confront James again, this time with more resolve. They sat in the penthouse's living room, the city's lights casting long shadows across the marble floor. "I can't keep pretending everything's fine," she said. "Claire's implying there's more to your past, and I heard her on the phone in LA saying you're slipping. What's going on, James? If you want me to stay, I need the truth." James's face darkened, a flicker of anger crossing his features. "Claire's overstepping," he said. "She's been with me for years, and sometimes she thinks she knows better than I do, but she's wrong about this. There's nothing else to tell." His dismissal only deepened Emma's frustration. "Then why does it feel like I'm only seeing half of you?" She countered. James stood, pacing to the window. "Because you're looking for flaws that aren't there," he said, his voice rising slightly. "I've given you everything. Trips, gifts, a glimpse into a life most people only dream of. Isn't that enough?" The words stung, reducing their connection to a transaction. Emma stood, her eyes burning. "I didn't ask for your money, James. I wanted you. But if you can't be honest, I don't know what we're doing here." The argument ended with James storming out, leaving Emma alone in the cavernous penthouse. She sank onto the couch, tears welling as she questioned her choices. Had she been naive to believe in this fairy tale? Or was James genuinely trying to protect her from a past he'd left behind? Her phone buzzed with a text from Mia. "You okay? Don't let him play you, Em." But Emma wasn't sure who was playing whom, James, Claire, or her own heart. The next morning, James returned, his demeanor softer. Over breakfast at a cafe in Soho, he apologized. "I shouldn't have snapped," he said, reaching for her hand. "You're right, you deserve more. Let's go somewhere quieter, away from all this. I have a place in Aspen. We can talk, really talk." His sincerity was disarming, and despite her reservations, Emma agreed. She wanted to believe in the man who'd made her feel seen, but she knew the truth was still out of reach. As they prepared to leave New York, Emma caught Claire watching her from across the penthouse lobby, her expression unreadable. The assistant's words replayed in her mind. "Dig deeper." Emma resolved to do just that. But the path ahead felt fraught with risk. Was James a man worth fighting for? Or was she on the verge of uncovering a truth that would shatter her world? Emma Carter gazed out at the snow-draped peaks of Aspen, Colorado, from the floor-to-ceiling windows of James Harrington's chalet in the exclusive enclave of Red Mountain. The sprawling estate, with its stone fireplaces and plush furnishings, was a sanctuary of warmth against the crisp mountain air, but Emma's heart was anything but settled. The past few weeks had been a dizzying journey, from her humble life as a barista in Nashville to the dazzling worlds of Miami, Los Angeles, and New York, all at the side of James, a man whose wealth and charisma had captivated her. Yet the shadows of his past, his evasive answers about a former fiancée named Vanessa, and whispers of shady business dealings had strained their budding romance. Now in Aspen, Emma hoped for clarity, but the stakes felt higher than ever. The tension from their argument in New York lingered. James's reluctance to fully open up, coupled with Claire's cryptic warnings, had left Emma questioning whether she could trust him. Yet his apology, delivered over breakfast in Soho, had been sincere, and his invitation to Aspen, a chance to escape the chaos and reconnect, had swayed her. "We'll talk, really talk," he'd promised, and Emma, despite her doubts, wanted to believe him. The private jet ride from New York to Aspen-Pitkin County Airport had been quiet, with James holding her hand but saying little, as if he, too, sensed the fragility of their bond. Upon arriving at the chalet, Emma was struck by its understated elegance. Unlike the ostentatious glamour of James's Manhattan penthouse, this home felt personal, adorned with framed photos of his travels and a library of well-worn books. James seemed more relaxed here, trading his tailored suits for a cashmere sweater and jeans. Over their first dinner, prepared by a private chef and served in a dining room overlooking the Roaring Fork Valley, he spoke of his childhood, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability. "I wasn't born into wealth," he admitted, swirling a glass of Cabernet. "I built everything from nothing, and it cost me more than I expected." Emma listened, her heart softening, but the unanswered questions about Vanessa and his business dealings kept her guarded. The next day, James planned a day of skiing on Ajax Mountain, followed by a visit to the Maroon Bells, where the snow-covered peaks reflected in crystalline lakes. Emma, a novice skier, laughed as James patiently guided her down gentle slopes, his hand steadying her. For a few hours, the weight of their unresolved issues lifted, and she glimpsed the man she'd fallen for in Nashville. Attentive, warm, and genuine. But the reprieve was short-lived. At a cozy après-ski gathering at the Little Nell, a luxury hotel in downtown Aspen, Claire's presence shattered the fragile peace. Claire had arrived in Aspen unannounced, claiming she needed to deliver urgent documents for James's latest project. Her cool demeanor and pointed glances at Emma reignited the tension. During a quiet moment at the hotel's bar, while James was distracted by a phone call, Claire approached Emma. "You're still here," she said, her voice low. "I thought you'd have run by now. Did he tell you about the lawsuit? Or is he still playing the reformed hero?" Emma's pulse quickened. "What lawsuit?" she demanded, but Claire only smirked. "Check his office in New York when you get back. You'll find what you need." The confrontation left Emma reeling, but the real drama unfolded that evening at a charity auction hosted at the Little Nell's Grand Ballroom. The event, attended by Aspen's elite, was a glittering affair, with guests bidding on rare wines and exotic vacations. Emma, dressed in a silver gown that shimmered under the chandeliers, stood by James's side as he charmed the crowd, pledging a substantial donation to a local environmental cause. But as the auction reached its peak, Emma noticed Claire whispering to a man in a dark suit near the back of the room. The man, whom Emma recognized as the same person James had argued with at the Chateau Marmont in Los Angeles, handed Claire a flash drive before slipping out. Seizing her chance, Emma followed Claire to a quiet corridor, her heart pounding. "What are you doing?" she demanded, stepping into Claire's path. "You're trying to ruin him, aren't you?" Claire's eyes narrowed, but for the first time, her composure faltered. "Ruin him?" she snapped. "I'm protecting him, from himself and from you. You think you're special, but you're just another distraction. He's in over his head, and if you keep pushing, you'll both get hurt." Emma stood her ground. "Tell me the truth, Claire. What's on that flash drive, and what does it have to do with James?" Claire hesitated, then sighed, her shoulders slumping. It's evidence, she said quietly. Proof that James's company was involved in a deal that skirted regulations years ago. He thought he'd buried it, but someone's digging it up. Someone who wants to take him down. I'm trying to contain it, but you're making it harder by stirring things up. Shocked, Emma pressed further. And Vanessa? Was she part of this? Claire's expression softened, almost pitying. Vanessa was collateral damage. She loved him, but she couldn't handle his world. Sound familiar? Before Emma could respond, James appeared, his face a mix of concern and anger. What's going on here? He demanded, looking between them. Emma, emboldened by Claire's revelations, didn't back down. I deserve to know everything, James, about the lawsuit, the deal, Vanessa, all of it. If you want me to stay, stop hiding. The corridor fell silent, the distant hum of the auction the only sound. Claire excused herself, leaving them alone, and James's shoulders sagged. You're right, he said, his voice raw. I've been protecting you, but maybe I've been protecting myself too. Back at the chalet, under the glow of a crackling fire, James finally opened up. He confirmed Claire's story. Years ago, his company had pushed legal boundaries in a real estate deal, leading to a lawsuit that nearly destroyed him. Vanessa, his fiancée at the time, had left when the scandal broke, unable to cope with the public scrutiny. I swore I'd never let anyone get that close again, he said, his eyes meeting hers. But then I met you, and everything changed. I'm not perfect, Emma, but I love you. I want you in my life. The confession, raw and unguarded, hit Emma like a tidal wave. For the first time, she saw the man behind the wealth, a man who'd fought for everything and feared losing it all. Tears welled in her eyes as she weighed his words. I love you too, she admitted, her voice trembling. But love isn't enough if there's no trust. Promise me, no more secrets. James nodded, pulling her into his arms. No more secrets, he whispered. In that moment, Emma felt a fragile hope, but Claire's warning about the flash drive and an unseen enemy lingered in her mind. Someone was out to destroy James, and she was now entangled in the fight. As they stood together, watching the snow fall outside, Emma knew she'd crossed a point of no return. She was no longer just a bystander in James's world. She was part of it, for better or worse. But the battle was far from over, and the truth she sensed was still unfolding. Emma Carter stood on the terrace of a stately mansion in San Francisco's Pacific Heights, the Golden Gate Bridge glowing in the distance under the soft hues of a California sunset. The elegant home, with its ivy-covered walls and panoramic views of the bay, was a far cry from the cramped Nashville apartment where her journey began just months ago. Once a barista scraping by at the daily grind, Emma had been swept into the opulent world of James Harrington, a wealthy businessman whose charm and secrets had tested her heart at every turn. From Miami to Los Angeles, New York to Aspen, their romance had weathered doubts, betrayals, and revelations. Now, in San Francisco, Emma stood at a crossroads, determined to forge a future with James, but only if they could overcome the final shadows of his past. The events in Aspen had marked a turning point. James's confession about his tainted business dealings and the broken engagement with Vanessa had laid bare his vulnerabilities, and his declaration of love had rekindled Emma's hope. Yet, Claire's revelation about a flash drive containing evidence of James's past missteps and the mysterious enemy seeking to expose him had left Emma on edge. As they boarded a private jet from Aspen to San Francisco, where James owned a tech investment firm, Emma sensed the battle was not over. We'll face this together, James had promised, squeezing her hand, and for the first time, Emma felt like his partner, not just a guest in his world. San Francisco welcomed them with its vibrant energy and fog-kissed hills. The Pacific Heights mansion, nestled among historic homes, was James's West Coast haven, filled with modern art and cozy touches that reflected his evolving openness. Emma settled in, marveling at the view from their bedroom, where Alcatraz Island loomed in the distance. James was determined to make this chapter different, involving Emma in his plans. He introduced her to his team at a sleek office in the financial district, where he was launching a green tech initiative. I want you to be part of this, he said, showing her blueprints for sustainable housing projects. Emma, inspired, began to see a role for herself beyond the glamour, a chance to make a difference. But the threat Claire had warned of soon surfaced. One evening, while dining at Gary Danko, a renowned restaurant near Fisherman's Wharf, James received a call that drained the color from his face. "It's out," he said, hanging up. A whistleblower had leaked documents to a major news outlet, alleging that James's company had skirted regulations in a decade-old deal, the same scandal tied to the flash drive. The story was gaining traction online, and James's reputation was at risk. Emma, watching his jaw clench, felt a surge of protectiveness. "What do we do?" she asked. James took a deep breath. "I face it head on. No more running." The next day, James called a press conference at the Fairmont San Francisco, a historic hotel atop Nob Hill. Emma stood backstage, her heart pounding, as he addressed a room of reporters and cameras. In a measured tone, he acknowledged his past mistakes, detailing the questionable deal and the lessons he'd learned. "I was young and ambitious, and I cut corners," he said. "But I've spent years making amends, and my current work is proof of that." He gestured to Emma, who stepped forward, surprised but steady. "This woman has shown me what it means to live with integrity. Together, we're building something better." The room buzzed, and Emma, though nervous, felt a swell of pride. James was no longer hiding. He was reclaiming his narrative. The press conference was a turning point, but the fallout wasn't over. Back at the mansion, Emma confronted the lingering question of Claire's role. She'd sensed Claire's hostility was more than jealousy. It was personal. Late one night, Emma found Claire in the mansion's study, packing files. "You're leaving?" Emma asked. Claire nodded, her expression weary. "My job's done. I stayed to protect him, but he doesn't need me anymore. Not with you here." Emma pressed for answers, and Claire finally relented. "I loved him once," she admitted. "Not like you do, but enough to stick around through the chaos. I pushed you to dig because I wanted you to see the real James. If you could handle that, you were worth his trust." Claire's confession stunned Emma, but it also clarified her motives. She hadn't been a villain, but a gatekeeper, testing Emma's resolve. As Claire left, promising to disappear quietly, Emma felt a mix of relief and empathy. The flash drive, Claire revealed, had been destroyed, its contents redundant after James's public admission. The enemy, a former business partner with a grudge, had lost his leverage. For the first time, Emma felt the weight of James's past lift, leaving room for their future. With the crisis behind them, James and Emma focused on rebuilding. He threw himself into his green tech projects, while Emma, inspired by her own dreams, enrolled in art classes at the San Francisco Art Institute, determined to pursue her passion for painting. She also proposed a charity initiative, using James's resources to fund art programs for underprivileged youth in the Bay Area. "You're changing me," James said one evening, watching her sketch plans for the program. "I thought I was the one showing you a new world." Emma smiled, kissing him softly. "We're building it together." The culmination of their journey came at a gala at the Fairmont, where James and Emma announced their charity's launch. The event, attended by San Francisco's elite, was a celebration of their shared vision. Emma, radiant in a gold gown, spoke briefly, her voice steady as she thanked James for believing in her. The crowd applauded, and James, taking the stage, surprised her by dropping to one knee. "Emma Carter," he said, holding a diamond ring that sparkled under the chandeliers. "You've seen me at my worst and loved me anyway. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Emma's face as she nodded, the room erupting in cheers. Their engagement marked a new beginning. They settled into the Pacific Heights mansion, balancing work, love, and their charity. Emma's art began to gain recognition, with a small gallery in the Mission District showcasing her work. James, freed from the burdens of his past, became a vocal advocate for ethical business practices, earning respect in a way his wealth never could. One evening, as they stood on the Golden Gate Bridge, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Emma leaned into James's arms. "I never imagined this," she whispered. "Neither did I," he replied, kissing her forehead. "But I wouldn't change a thing." Emma's journey, from a barista dreaming of more to a woman who'd reshaped her life and inspired others, was complete. She'd faced James's secrets, navigated betrayal, and emerged stronger, not just as his partner, but as a force in her own right. Their love, forged in drama and tested by truth, was now a beacon for others, proving that even the most unlikely fairy tales could end in happily ever after.